Larry Sise and Dr. Lamin Mane back at Eco TV to talk about some burning issues facing the country. But first we want to greet you. Ramadan Mubarak, and we hope our prayers and supplications will be answered by Almighty Allah. Lamin, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, just to say good afternoon again to all the listeners, wherever you are. We're glad to be back on Eco TV International to have a chat with you. And as Larry said, the burning issues of the country and other issues that are, going on alongside, which are in the background a bit, but which also need to be discussed. So we will be having a frank discussion with you for another hour or so. So happy to be back here. Thank you.
Yes, when you look at our background, you will see the Gambia we want. We had not discussed that in our first program because it was still in the thinking process. We call this program the Gambia We Want because UDP has a document, a blueprint, that was tailored along the same lines as the Singaporean leader, Lee Kuan Yew. He mapped out his vision for Singapore and went ahead and achieved it. The lessons learned from that, and taking into consideration the fact that at independence, Gambia was at the same level of development as Singapore, as Ghana, as South Korea, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Now, comparatively, those countries have all left us behind. So we sat down and we did a vision document called the Gambia We Want to Build. So this program is going to be tailored along that, the Gambia we want. We want people to know 2 or 3 things. One, UDP has morphed into a knowledge party. I've said that in one of my appearances on one of the platforms, that we are a knowledge party, a party that has a clear vision for the country, and we want to do it in the most civil, respected, and respectable manner. This program is going to be based strictly on ideas, imparting knowledge and experience. In our last segment, I personally saw some comments that I thought were unsavory, but at the same time, I agree that it's a democratic dispensation and people have a right to free speech. But our program is not geared towards those kinds of issues. Our program is geared towards bringing information to Gambians, information that is honest, that is reliable, that is dependable. In so doing, we're going to do it in a very respectable manner. That's 2. The third one is we are not going to be answering to insults. We will deal with only the issues. We'll talk about the issues. We'll bring material evidence to bear on the issues. And when we discuss those issues, viewers should be rest assured that we are doing it with the utmost due diligence in terms of doing our research, coming up with the facts, and laying the facts for Gambians to see. We have no interest in going back and forth with anybody or any particular institution. What we want is for Gambians to know what the material facts are on the issues that we're going to be discussing on this program. I think those are some of the things that I want us to bring forth. The final one is that we are not journalists, so we shouldn't be described as journalists. We are just laymen who has a certain number of years of experience, and we want to bring that experience and knowledge to bear on how to improve the lives of ordinary Gambians. We are not journalists, but we will maintain and adhere to the highest journalistic standards. That is fairness, openness, and respect and due diligence. Lamin.
Thank you very much, Larry, and I think that's very important to lay the groundwork so that we all know where we are coming from and where we want to go. And I'm glad that you also quoted Lee Kuan Yew as somebody who's probably thinking and vision and mission for his country can be relevant to us. When we try to discuss issues, learn from our viewers and listeners, and impart knowledge where we can, to a large extent, it sits very well with Lee Kuan Yew's approach, what he called the MPH.
Yes.
The meritocracy, pragmatism, and honesty. If we develop that, we stand a lot to gain. Because the Gambia has a lot of very talented people. And we have to use all the talents that this country has. The country needs all its sons and daughters. So wherever the talent is, we've got to go find it, bring it to bear, and nurture additional talent. Is that meritocracy that's going to make a difference? We are past the age of amateurism. We've got to do things in a very professional way, in a way that is consistent with international best practices. So we've got to be able to do that and to at least yearn for it. And the pragmatism is where we don't get bogged down in ideology, but we look at what works for our country, how do we move it forward? We are more centrist than anything else, but we look at what is practical, what works for our country. And of course, the honesty. You can't do anything for any country if you are not honest, if you don't have integrity, if you do not have the respect and the patriotism that is required to be able to move the country forward. And that's what we're going to try and do. The objective is taking this country to the place where we want it to be. That is the Gambia we want to build for all the Gambians, all its citizens. We wouldn't think of leaving out any segment of this country because as Usainu Dabo says, the Gambia without the Jola, the Fula, the Manjago, the Balanta, the Mandinka, Wolof, etc., it's not Gambia. We are all in this together. We do it together or we all sing together. So every segment of the society is important. And we will never play into the tribal politics that some people are trying to build around this country. That is not for us. We see a Gambia which is rich from the diversity of its sons and daughters. And we've got to bring that diversity to bear for the country. And that's where we're heading. And we will not take any distraction from that. No amount of insults or whatever we'll do. But I'm sure with time also, even those insults will go away. Because people will realize that what we are doing is trying to build something for this country, and we will get there. So that said, the journalism part, we will learn on the way, because we have some very good journalists with us. So we'll be learning from them and learning from the tricks, and we move along. We'll make mistakes, and we'll correct them as we go along. So yeah, thank you very much for that introduction, and yeah.
Yeah,
forward to a very good show.
The Gambia we want to build is a stage-wise, stepwise ladder. Right now, our classification is we are a least developed country, LDC. We want to move the country from being classified as an LDC to a middle-income country. From a middle-income country to a small developed country. Those stages can take years, but if the foundation is laid properly, it can be achieved, because Lee Kuan Yew achieved it in his lifetime, and he was alive when he saw how Singapore just blossomed into something totally different. Malaysia, the same thing. Indonesia is the same. So we are thinking along the lines that nationalism alone is not going to do it. That nationalism is going to have to be based on knowledge, experience, and integrity as you go along. So we'll put the Gambia we want on the side. That's the context in which you are seeing it. We'll move to to the next item on what we are going to discuss today, and that is NAWEC. Last time we told you that we will do some basic research on NAWEC, and we have done some basic research in NAWEC. The numbers are so many and so complex. I'll have to go back to my notes to just highlight the key points that I want to impart. We all know that 2 or 3 years ago, NAWEC was given a rate hike, the authority to increase rates. And those rates were put into effect in October 2022. Those rates were increased by electricity by 37%, water by 20%. And in terms of all the other sectors, the commercial sector and the hotel sector especially because it is a sector that employs a lot of people, but their rate has been hiked to about 47%. Now, in terms of context, these are very significant rate increases. The question then becomes, are people actually seeing the benefits of these rate increases, or are we still facing the same on and off NAWEC that I normally will call on my Facebook page the jumping lights? The electricity is not stable, it is not consistent, and my personal experience is my home appliances, I think in the last 3 or 4 years, I've had to replace everything. And I can imagine how that kind of burden can be on Gambians. So that is the context. Now, NAWEC itself has made it clear through their line ministry that they have a very serious debt burden. NAWEC is both a debtor and a creditor. They say the government owes them 248 million Gambian dollars as of December 31st, 2023. $248 million. That's what government owes them. And they highlighted where it's mostly government institutions not paying their rates. We want to do a little bit of advocacy for NAWEC here to say you cannot expect a state-owned enterprise to make profits, to operate on a profitable basis, to apply sound business principles when the government itself is its biggest creditor. Government has to sort their issues out with NAWEC in terms of retiring these 248 million Gambian dollars they owe NAWEC. Now, out of that is the NAWEC being a creditor. NAWEC being a debtor can be looked at from 2 points. Point number 1, NAWEC owes Car Power $25 million US. That's what came out of their public information. 25 million a year is paid to Car Power. Let me correct that. $25 million a year paid to Car Power. $40 million a year paid to Senelec. Now, I want Gambians to internalize this, because if you are paying a service provider 25 million plus 40 million, I think that's about 68 million. The question then becomes, when are you going to wean yourself from these entities and start investing in your own infrastructure so that you can become energy independent and don't rely on foreign sources of energy? Now, NAWEC, according to them, their total revenue is $4.1 billion for the period to December, reporting period of December 31, 2022. In other words, 4.12 billion is what their revenue is. But that leaves out 2023, 2024, 2025. So unless we know the figures for those 3 years, you cannot put a good handle on NAWEC's actual total revenue versus its operational costs. They are reporting that their losses are around 20.7 million. And of that, Forex losses is 1 billion. You are losing 20.7 million. They didn't even say whether that was for the same reporting period or it was for the period ending 31st December 2024. Just that their net loss is around 20 million and their foreign exchange loss is about 1 billion, which basically means that this 1 billion is lost because of their foreign exchange transactions. Now, as of September 30, 2024, the outstanding debts to Car Power are 8.4 million. These are for invoices from June, July, and August 2024. September, October, November, December is outstanding. But you owe Car Power $8.4 million US. You owe Senelec 9.8 billion CFA, which is the equivalent of 16.1 million US for invoices from June, July, August, September 2024. So you begin to see a situation where financially NAWEC being solvent becomes a very difficult task indeed if it is not looked at from a purely business transaction point of view. Now, NAWEC has received loans for various projects to the tune of 430.3 million Gambian dollars as of December 31st, 2024. This is what they contracted for their various projects as of December 31st, 2024, 430.3 million. So, NAWEC keeps borrowing. It owes Senelec, it owes Car Power, government owes NAWEC money, and the consumer is the one that is paying the price of poor service delivery. I want to stop there and ask you to, if you have anything to add, you can add to that. But I want those figures to come out to say it will be very difficult to make NAWEC solvent with these kinds of projections.
Thank you, Larry. And the dramatic side of it is that NAWEC is potentially solvent.
Yes.
But it is straddled by lousy management. Any of these state-owned enterprises can work, make money, make profits, and pay dividends to the state. But because they are poorly managed, because there are attitudes which we need to change, because a number of them are also overstaffed, and the management is not accountable, that is part of the problems they face. NAWEC's operating results that came out, is a balance sheet that came out for the past couple of years, show an annual unaccountable loss of about $200 million a year. How can any company survive on that kind of record? You just can't do it. Secondly, if you're going to pay tens of millions of dollars to people who generate power for you on a temporary basis, you will never be able to become solvent.
Yeah.
It's like when you make an analogy with a family that lives in a big house, pays rent beyond its means, you will continue paying rent and you will never build your own house. You take what is within your means and then you save some to be able to build your house. Now we're paying so much money to Car Power, to Senelec, on a yearly basis. We'll never be able to generate enough power itself to become independent.
Yeah.
The amount of money, the $9 million paid to Car Power, the $16 million owed to Senelec and all others paid per annum. When you add that together, we're reaching amounts in tens of millions of dollars. You invested in generation, in transmission,
Distribution.
you start making a difference.
Distribution.
We get to the distribution side because the main problems we have right now are the generation and transmission.
Yeah.
Our transmission losses in NAWEC until recently, because this country, they never give you the figures.
No.
You have to go data mining to be able to get anything. The transmission losses were in excess of 20% of the generated capacity and the installed capacity. How do you make any sustainable development on the basis of such a loss? So, which means that the power lines are antiquated. Everything needs to be overhauled. I see some efforts at overhauling those transmission lines to make a difference, and I hope that continues. If you generate just about 5% right now, 5 megawatts right now, when are you going to get independent to be able to move forward?
Yeah.
We have the potential to generate our own electricity, and we can skip some of the polluting fossil fuel generation
aspects of generation
and move to clean energy. We can move to solar generation. We have 24/7
sunlight and heat
every day of the year, 365 days in the year. We have solar potential. The sun is out here every day. We can generate electricity from solar power. We develop solar farms around the country. In a few years, we'll become independent. This is clean power, which does not need the kind of overheads that we have in fossil fuels. The heavy fuel oil that NAWEC buys year in, year out to run its generators, which is polluting, which is extremely difficult and cumbersome to manage. You move from that towards
with high maintenance
an energy
costs.
mix. You do not have an energy mix where you have the fossil fuels to a certain extent, whilst you transition to clean energy. You can do that with the solar generation. You can do it with wind generation. So you gradually have that power mix, energy mix, where you gradually transition from fossil fuel to clean energy. And then you forget the need to buy fuel. You don't need to buy any heavy fuel oil, because it comes from the sun and from the wind. We don't even need to go to hydro. And yet the River Gambia, if we harness the flow, we can generate electricity from River Gambia too.
Hydropower, yeah.
Yeah. But we don't even need to go there. Just by solar and wind power, we can power this country and get all the energy we need. We can even get to the point where we sell excess energy.
Yeah.
But all that requires an integrated plan that is going to be comprehensive and willing to, you have to have people who are determined to implement that, and a government that supports that. After the transition in 2016-17,
yeah,
the Gambian government had to repackage all of NAWEC's loans into a 30-year bond to be able to, so we are paying for that. We are paying for the losses and the mismanagement that happened in NAWEC for years before the transition. So we're paying for that still. Now let's move to something much more reasonable management. We have to be able to cut out corruption in this country. That is what is killing this country.
Yeah.
NAWEC will never be solvent unless we root out the corruption in NAWEC. I was really heartened to hear that Dawda Jawara, has been appointed as chair of the NAWEC board. I hope he brings, the integrity and the knowledge we need to that base to be able to move the country forward. Ask the question, demand results. It's got to be results, results, results. We've got to have results. So if we move that direction, we can make NAWEC profitable. We have what is called the West Africa Power Pool. Africa has 5 power pools: East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, Northern Africa, and Central Africa. So each of those power pools will buy from us our excess generation. If we produce more than we need, we can sell it to them. We can move towards independent power producers, the IPPs. People can produce their own solar energy for their houses. The excess, they sell to the grid. People can have wind farms in their backyards, in their farms, and generate wind power. People can come and invest in that as well. Get the private sector to come and invest in there, generate electricity, and sell it to the grid. And the grid can sell it to the West Africa Power Pool, what we don't need. There's a need for it, there's a demand. So we can do all of this, but it will require somebody who is determined to achieve those results. And for the life of me, I can't understand why NAWEC, after so many years, instead of getting better, is getting worse. But basically, it boils down to what? Corruption.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to.
Yes. And also the lack of vision. If you start charging, for example, you mentioned the hotel industry, you charge them 47%. How do you expect the hotel industry to grow? The hotel industry is a huge consumer of power. Now, if they're going to pay 47% extra on their power, you're straddling them already. So the hotel costs are going to go up, the hotels become less competitive, and the potential tourists will go to neighboring countries which are much more amenable to them and cheaper for them. We are losing tourists to Cape Verde, we are losing it to Senegal, we are losing it to different places, when we have a lot of potential here. So NAWEC has the potential to grow, to make money, to make profits, pay dividends to this country, and sell the excess abroad.
Yeah, you nailed it. The key word is harvesting data.
Yeah.
We are researching into all of these things on our own, going to different places for the same type of information to verify. I think life would be made very easy for every Gambian if this government is just transparent with us on these issues. Tell us the figures, put the figures out there. That takes care of the speculation part of things. And it also helps those who have an interest in this to know where to go look for data rather than to go and hunt for data and mine that data to analyze and to come with that. I think that's enough for NAWEC. We're going to hear from them. Yeah. But again, it's within the backdrop of not having precise information from reliable sources within the government. I want us to go back to the issue of corruption. You know, the last time we listed a list of corruption activities. In the interim, a video came out which chronologically gives the issues that the producers of that video called, because they say the president has told Standard newspaper that he is ready to fight corruption. Mm-hmm. And they say they are helping the president to focus on those corruption issues first before going anywhere. Now, we also said in the last program, and we'll keep saying it, that we think corruption is the single most serious betrayal of the public trust. And we are not going to tire telling people that. Unless and until we deal with corruption in a more serious, organized, substantive way, we are going to keep saying those who are corrupt in the system are betraying the public trust in very clear terms. And something that we didn't deal with in our last sitting was the alleged 4 billion, not 40 million, 4 billion in tax waivers to
the port
authority and business people who are importing goods. 4 billion.
Yeah.
It's what the tax waivers amount to.
Yeah.
We didn't also talk about the budget allocation of 60 million Gambian dollars for public officials to go abroad to get medical treatment. Why are we bringing these things up? We are bringing them up because ordinary Gambians don't have access to health care that is appropriate for them. If you go to the hospitals, you go to the health clinics, the story is the same. Lack of infrastructure, lack of medications, lack of storage facilities for medications. In some instances, I don't want to name certain names that I am personally aware of, where people from villages got together and renovated health centers to make it possible for pregnant lactating women to come and have a more safe delivery than them. So we want to highlight those things and say it's a betrayal of the public trust. But when you look at the salary structures also, what the president is earning, the cabinet, the National Assembly members, you realize that the executive has taken care of themselves. The legislature has taken care of themselves. They are in the process of taking care of the judiciary. Yes, I think that should bring us to the next topic. The minister has said, finance that is, has said that they have increased the salaries of average Gambians. He says, if I recollect properly, no worker in the government earns less than $6,000. Yes. And Peter asked, including cleaners, he said drivers, yes, yeah. Including cleaners and drivers. But when you look at the salary structure, the bottom rung has been corrected. There is nothing, the middle rung of the civil service are still stuck at where they are, and the top echelons of the civil service going all the way to the president, they have a very comfortable salary and benefit structure. So we are flagging this because we think it can be handled. The middle rung of the civil service needs to be looked at critically so that their ability to eke out a living under the current market conditions can also be made simpler and easier for them. We go to Lamin for additional.
Thank you, Larry. You know, you just referenced the Minister of Finance there. And I was sitting there last week watching him and listening to him on coffee time. And I was shocked. This gentleman sat there and said, yeah, the more we talk about corruption, the more we manage to control it.
Yeah.
I was like, seriously? No, it doesn't work that way. Yeah. The more you deal with corruption, the way you punish corruption, the more you come down heavy on corruption, the easier for us to control it and put it out of our system.
Yeah.
It's not by talking about it. It's by dealing with it. It's by outlawing it. It's by punishing it. That's how you get rid of corruption, not by talking about it. Talking about it doesn't do anything. You see, and the thing that is sad about it is that they would stare you in the face and spin falsehoods without any qualms. This was the minister who sat there and told us that they sold Mega Bank and he doesn't know who they sold it to.
Yeah.
This is the Minister of Finance, for God's sake. They sold Mega Bank. And if you are selling an institution like that, you need to do your due diligence. You need to know who you're selling it to, so that you don't start selling it to drug dealers. You don't just start selling it to people who are trying to launder money that was obtained illegally. You try to sell it to people who will have the confidence of the Gambian people that they will take the bank forward. But even more importantly, he was telling us that, oh, we made a lot of money, we had a good price for Mega Bank. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. They bought Mega Bank in 2014 because it had gone under. They bought it for $900 million. And they were even hiding the figures because $600 million was paid by the Ministry of Finance. That's what they reported on. The $300 million paid by Central Bank, they never reported on that, or very little. So they paid $900 million for Mega Bank in 2014. They took people from Central Bank to go run it. The part of the board was Central Bank staff to make sure that they got it off the ground properly, which is, I recommend that. 9 years down the line, 9 years, from 2014, 2023, they sold the same bank for the same amount. You bought it for $900 million in 2014. You sell it in 2023 for the same $900 million. After you sanitized the bank, you rehabilitated it, you got it properly established and ATMs and what
and you made it profitable.
You made it profitable, and you sell for the same $900 million. Just by the mechanical effect of the depreciation of the dollar, we have lost a lot. $900 million in 2014 is much less than $900 million in 2023. What you could buy with $900 million in 2014 is nowhere near what you can buy today. So we have lost a lot. That bank should be worth minimum $2.5 billion. But they undervalued it and sold it at a loss. So somebody walked away with a huge
chunk of assets.
Capital gain. So that is unconscionable. A Minister of Finance cannot sit there and tell us that, with a straight face and want to make us believe, oh, we sold it for $15.25 million. That was a good price. It allowed the central bank to exit. Hello? You telling us that? You have made a big loss for the country. 1. 2, you didn't do your due diligence. Or if you did, you are not telling us. You're hiding information. And that should come out. And it's exactly the same thing we hear from them with every single thing that they do. Oh, we don't know how much, we don't know who, etc. What are you doing? You're supposed to do your due diligence. The same minister told us that they contracted with a Norwegian firm, with Gambian investors, to go mine, deep sea mine, or polymetallic nodules in the Gambia. And when he was asked, who is the Norwegian company and who are the Gambian partners? He said, I don't know that, I was not part of the bidding process.
I don't know those details.
You are the Minister of Finance. You're supposed to know that. You're supposed to know who we're dealing with. You're supposed to know who are the shareholders. If you don't know that, you are derelict in duty. And, if you look at that agreement, polymetallic nodules in our territorial waters, in our exclusive economic zone, are entirely under our sovereign laws. And then you have some more in the international waters. There is what we call the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, which was adopted in 1982. And the Gambia signed that convention in October 1982. I think it was 15, but it's in October. October 1982, the Gambia signed that convention. In May 1984, it ratified the convention. So we are part of that convention. That convention is called UNCLOS, United Nations Conference on the Law of the Sea, has set out a rule-based exploitation of those resources when we get there. And it's got to be done in a way that protects the environment, the marine environment. And to make that easier, they set up what was called the International Deep Sea Authority. So that authority was set up in 1996, and it's headquartered in Jamaica. And we are part of all of that. So any country that was part of the UNCLOS, United Nations Conference on Law of the Sea, became an automatic member of the International Deep Sea Authority. So we are sitting on that too. So we have a lot of obligations under those conventions. So if we start moving to deep sea mining, there are obligations we must safeguard. As soon as we ratified the UNCLOS, United Nations Conference on Law of the Sea, when we ratified in 1984, we started talking to Senegal and Cape Verde. Because we are sitting on the same continental shelf, we have the same polymetallic nodules, so one of us should not be exploiting their own at the detriment
in isolation from the others.
Exactly. So if you decide to go into deep sea mining, you at least got to talk to those people and try to get an agreement, a modus operandi. But more importantly and much more interesting, no country in the world so far has gone into deep sea mining of those polymetallic nodules on the seabed. See, these are rare earth minerals, manganese, cobalt, nickel, and minerals like that. So they are getting rare on the surface of the earth, or on the land mass rather. So now the people are thinking of going to the seabed to look for them. These minerals, if you start mining them, there'll be a lot of destruction of our marine environment.
Yep. Our marine ecosystem.
Yes, exactly. You know, when we are kids going to school, they tell us photosynthesis is how nature generates oxygen for us to breathe. In the sea, people are wondering for a long time, how would the fish get enough oxygen in the deeper levels of the sea and the ocean? It's because those polymetallic nodules generate enough power to break down some of the water in the deep sea to produce oxygen. Including algae. For the fish and the algae. So if you start messing up with that, you mess with the marine environment. Norway is the only country in the world to have decided that they're going to go into mining deep sea minerals. But they have not done so in their own country yet. So they run to our country to start experimenting it here. Why? Because these things happen because you have a weak, corrupt government. You have state capture. When these things happen, they look for the weak states where where anything goes. They go try it there, and they'll say, oh, we are setting trends, we are champions. You are not champions. You're just unpatriotic. That's how he signed the Africa 50 agreement and recycled, as he said, or mortgaged our bridge. And he tells you, we are leading the world in this, we are doing that. No, you are not. No other minister of finance on the continent is unpatriotic enough to do what you did. That's the bottom line. So don't tell us you are patriotic, you are a trendsetter. No, you are not.
Well, trend-setting in things that shouldn't be done.
Exactly, yeah, the negative side of it.
Yeah.
So this again, I'm saying this because Gambians have to reflect on these things and see, if you go to around Sanyang, I saw a very good video done by Nyang Jai, an activist.
Yes, I saw it also.
On the destruction of the marine
environment due to mining.
The sand mining, and the damage it has done to our coastal area around Sanyang. And they just destroy it and walk away. Yeah. So if they go into mining our polymetallic nodules on the seabed, they're going to destroy the marine ecosystem, which will have very severe consequences on our marine life. And not just us, probably our neighboring countries. So you cannot just do these things and take it so lightly. Oh, yeah, we're doing well, we know. No, you are not. You cannot continue destroying our country. You sell all our assets, and you tell us, well, we're selling them because these companies are not performing, that's why we're selling them, otherwise we wouldn't sell them. Why aren't they performing? Why aren't they performing? These companies are all potentially profitable companies, these state-owned enterprises. You run them and manage them as enterprises, as private sector entities. Public owned, but private sector outlook. You manage them with that approach, you'll make money for all of them.
And that was the rationale for setting them up?
In the first place, yeah. So why don't you run them properly? Why don't you take away the corruption? Why don't you take away the incompetent managers and bring in people who are going to run them properly? Social Security and Housing Finance Corporation was running a huge loss. The great Mohammed Manjam, in 2 years, he turned it around and made a huge profit, over $1 billion, and they were able to pay the pensioners a bit more money. GNPC was bleeding money under Mamburen Jai. They changed the management. GNPC went from a loss of a couple of tens of millions of dollars per year to tens of millions of dollars profit. Gamcel under Bakarin Jai, I keep saying this, was making so much money and paying so much dividend to the Gambia government, they were virtually paying the salaries. So if all of that is not enough for you to show that with proper management you can make these companies profitable and pay dividends to the state, which is why we said number was there in the first place. If you don't see that, then you shouldn't be Minister of Finance. If you don't see that as a government, you should go and let another government come into this country. But it's just the arrogance sometimes of some of these people who can sit there and stare you in the face and with a straight face tell you all of these falsehoods. It's distressing. You see, he tells you, oh, we increased the salaries of the civil service by over 100%. The civil service is just about 55,000 Gambians out of 2.4, 2.5 million Gambians. So if you increase the salary for civil servants, it's very good. But what about the rest of the 2.3, 2.4 million Gambians? What about them? What are you doing for them?
And the proportion of those in the farming community.
Exactly, exactly. Whose groundnuts are not even bought for most of them up to now. Rainy season is 2 months away. So the ones from last rainy season are still out there not being sold.
And by some accounts, even the previous year are still outstanding.
Look at that in comparison to Senegal. When the Jomai government came into place, the equivalent of their GPMB or GGC or whatever name they give it now, it's called Sonacos in Senegal. They brought it back and they have started again making lots of money from their groundnuts. They are producing oil, no longer exporting the groundnuts,
vegetable oil.
They are making vegetable oils from and other
through
from
recapitalization.
And they are making money, and they have created so many jobs. 6 of their major industrial units in Senegal have already been revived. In Ziguinchor, in Kaolack, in Diourbel, etc. They're already reviving them. Our GPMB or GGC or whatever the new name is still in the doldrums. Saro has gone, under.
It's dead.
And now they say they're going to bring it back.
Saro
bring
is
it back
dead.
how? Because already that company has been privatized. But it was a money maker for this country. But you let them rot, and then you sell them off. Say, oh, they don't make money, they are poly money, so we let them sell us off. People are buying those companies because they are profitable, potentially profitable. So you undervalue them, you let them run bad, undervalue them and sell them to your friends or whatever, and then they make a killing. They tell us NTC went under Jawara. Yes, it did, because it was poorly managed. GPMB, cooperatives, they went under because they were poorly managed. Not because they're not profitable, it's because they are poorly managed. Why don't we get them proper management and get the money from them? We all stand to gain. It's not just a few people who are making so much money from them, and then they end up killing it off to the detriment of the rest of the Gambia. That's what we should fight against. We should bring in proper management, proper people with integrity who can run these companies and make money for us. Pay them decent salaries, close to civil, private sector salaries, to give them the encouragement they need to be able to make money for us. That's why they are called state-owned enterprises. Anyway,
I think that's exhaustive. Now, I want to bring in two things and then we call it a day. One of them is how do we reform the electricity sector to make it sustainable for ordinary Gambians who are benefiting from it. I am saying this because if you look at the data again, Car Power was paid $4.4 billion between 2018 and 2020. 4.4 billion. That's about 88 million US dollars. That's what Car Power was paid 2018 to 2020. It's now 2025. Okay. You get my drift. Mm-hmm. It's now 2025. What is owing to Car Power and what is owed to Senelec is what I'm driving at. And I will drive at this thing until they give us the figures, because they are not giving us those figures. 4.4 billion is what you are paying Car Power. 2018, 19, 2020, 3 years. You are paying 88 million US dollars. They pay the annually, Car Power's annual payment is about 1.5 billion, which is about 30 million US dollars. That's the annual average. NAWEC borrowed around 450 million US dollars between 2018 and 2023. 450 million US dollars is what they have borrowed.
And what do we have to show for that?
And what we have to show for that. That's what I want to flag. Yeah. I want to conclude by saying, Lamin and the audience, all of these activities, the minister doing what he's doing in terms of, they call it recycling, we call it mortgaging our strategic national assets. When you look at it, all of it within the context of corruption, you have to add the word impunity to it. Yeah. They are doing these things because they are flaunting power. It's a gross abuse of power to recycle our strategic national assets. The other day on social media, I saw somebody who wrote and says, wait a minute, our strategic assets on land, sea, and water are all being mortgaged off. Yeah. Where is our national security? Yeah. It may sound rhetorical, but it is not. It's a valid question that we need to ask our government to come out and talk to, and that is, why are you mortgaging all our strategic national assets on land, sea, and water? Yeah. And land, air, and water? Why are you doing that? Now, corruption cannot happen in a vacuum. No. It happens in a situation where impunity is used. And we keep saying impunity because when you look at how the Chief Justice's residence was allocated to the president, that thing, everybody knows that was a government asset. Why assign a government asset to the president?
Which can be alienated.
Yeah. And that asset, we all know where it belongs to. On the books, it belongs to the Ministry of Justice. On the books, it's the official residence of the Chief Justice. But this Ministry of Justice, Chief Justice, they are just mum on this issue. They will never come out and talk to us along the lines that, yes, it belongs to the Ministry of Justice. Yes, it used to be the Chief Justice's residence, but this is why we gave it to the president. They will never explain that because it is impunity. They are telling each other we can do it because we have the power. And they are taking a cue from the president himself on that one.
I just want to say something on that very quickly, because apparently we are running out of time. Because the Ministry of Justice, sorry, the Chief Justice, though, they are in an institution where they have to show restraint. There are certain things they can't comment on, but they can have people at least talk about it. So I just want to give them that to be complete there. But Anyway, let me.
Yeah, I mean, we understand they can't come out and make public statements. Mm-hmm. But when we question who owns the place, for it to be allocated, they should have said it belongs to us. Yeah. Simple. And then you go on that and don't make any comments on it. The other one that I wanted to, as far as impunity is concerned, is the anti-corruption bill. Yeah. Now, the anti-corruption bill was signed, I think, in February 2024. There is a section in that anti-corruption bill that says that nobody who served in this government from 2017 to the day that anti-corruption bill was signed cannot be subject to any form of investigations and or prosecutions. There is that section in that anti-corruption bill. And that is the same section that they put in the Barrow Jallow 2024 Constitution. When you are coming in, you declare your assets. When you are going out, you have no obligation to declare your assets. I just want to flag those things to say these are classic cases of impunity that we are seeing in broad daylight without an explanation.
And the good thing is that those things can be challenged. Yeah. They can be challenged, and that's what landed Yankuba Toure in jail. Mm. He thought the indemnity clause in the 1997 Constitution protects him and guarantees him impunity for the crimes they committed. Yeah. It landed him in jail. Those clauses will be challenged.
They will be challenged. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say there were two other things, because, you know, when I watched that Minister of Finance, I was just looking, because I was sitting there writing down some of the things he was saying.
That's what I do.
I was so taken aback that he could look us in the face and say those sort of things. I started writing down some of the things. And there are two things I want to discuss. We don't have time. We'll come to that next week. One of them is the currency swap.
Yeah, with Africa Export Import. Yeah.
$75 million currency swap. Today I talked about it on another platform, but we will need to discuss it here as well. Yeah. That is a ripoff. We need to talk about that. Yeah. The Social Security and Finance Corporation, the money they took from them to buy buses, he said Social Security is the parent company of GTSC. Yeah. GTSC, so they can just, you know,
9.8 million euros.
They can just make them spend the money anyhow they were. And he said, oh, they were just nudged on by the president. No, that shouldn't be. I sat on the ADB's staff retirement plan. That is our Social Security sort of pension plan. For 3.5 years until I retired. We managed over $1 billion for the staff of the ADB's retirement. And never does the ADB management dictate to us what to do. Yeah. We decide how we invest that money because it is for the retirees. But I think we'll come back to those next week because those two, you know, are very close to my heart, and I think we need to discuss those two under the corruption
rubric.
Yeah. So let's discuss that next week. But I think I just need to flag that today because I found that totally shocking that the Minister of Finance would sit there and tell us those things. Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much, Lamin. Thank you, the team. I know the Fatih,
Yes, the Fatihs and Dravis and Jawaras are really looking towards...
Me, I'm going to the Toures, the Davos, and the Mbayens. These are the ones that I'm going after to say...
Looking at their watch to see how many
hours... They look very tired. We need to, and hungry. We need to just let go and say thank you to them. Again, to re-emphasize, this is a young group of professionals, majority young ladies, owned by a young entrepreneur, private sector, creating employment and training and empowering young people. Yeah. These are some of the things that unfortunately government should be doing. Thank you very much. We'll see you the next time we are on.